Welcome to Mission Imperfect, the podcast about finding your own path, your own way, and embracing the imperfection of the journey.
We're your hosts, life coaches, former HR professionals, and mums, Kirsty and Catherine.
We love to discuss the topics that come up time and time again for our coaching clients and which affect us all, from things like acceptance and boundaries to values and well-being and everything in between.
Each episode ends with a question for you and us to reflect on. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to grab a cuppa and a biscuit and join us in getting lost in finding ourselves.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Mission Imperfect. This week we are talking about the phrase, I know. And Kirsty has an interesting question to put with this, which is what if I know stops you knowing more? So tell us how on earth you came up with this, Kirsty, but I know what we're about to discuss makes an awful lot of sense once you put that in place.
Okay, I know you might think is quite a positive thing. It indicates knowledge and understanding and all that stuff. But let's start with some obviously problematic I know statements, such as when people say, I know your sort, I know what's best for you, I know best, and I know was one that you suggested.
Mm,
I think all those statements are screaming, my mind is closed. I'm not open to new information or opinions, and
yeah,
I don't want to hear from you.
yeah. I totally agree. They're conversations shut downers, aren't they? Not openers. Like the I know to me basically means shut up. I don't want
Yes.
to hear what you're saying because I know it already, basically.
Oh, too right. When somebody says, I know that, it it, it may sound like a agreement that you've got a kind of connection there, that you're on the same page. It's quite superficially innocent, but statement of fact. But isn't it really shorthand for exactly what you've just said? It's basically you can shut up now because I don't think you can tell me anything I don't already know, and I've already made up my mind about it. So now I'm going to talk and you're going to listen.
Yeah,
That's often how a conversation goes once somebody's said, I know that, or I know.
yeah. It can signify sort of some impatience, I think, can't it? Or being a bit
Mm.
dismissive of whatever that person is saying. It's almost like I'm not really listening. Words of, I've heard them and I've already shut it down. So,
Yeah, and it's almost a bit of sort of future prediction, isn't it? Because how do you know what they're going to say?
mm,
Because they are talking about something, a particular subject, it doesn't mean they're going to tell you there's things that you already know. But I mean, there are when people say things like, I know what you mean, I know how you feel, that is usually meant in a very kind and caring and empathetic sort of way.
yeah,
It can create a huge sense of connection. Um, you know, it seems very far removed from the kind of I knows we've been talking about. But it's always a but, right? How often when we say those things, I know what you mean and how you feel, how often do we really dig into fully understanding what the other person means and what they really feel, rather than just sort of latching onto seemingly common opinions or experiences and then projecting our own meanings and feelings onto them and assuming that they're the same?
yeah,
Because when somebody says they've been through a difficult situation and you've been through something similar, a relationship breakdown, a redundancy perhaps, it's easy to just subconsciously leap to the assumption that they are going to feel the same as you did. They're going to have had the same sort of experience, come to the same conclusions. But until you listen to them, you don't know that.
yeah, exactly. I mean, it it's a tricky one, isn't it? Because I reckon you're right. I reckon we say it a lot and with good intention, because I think we want to be like understanding of, oh yes, I understand. At least I think I understand because
Yes.
I have experienced something similar. But obviously, what we've both experienced is, say, put something like childbirth, for example, or pregnancy. You can have a very, very different experience of that. So just think, oh yes, I know it was really hard in the last trimester, wasn't it? So okay, so you had X, Y, Z experience, and this person's had A, B,
Mm.
C. Could be completely different, but we like to try and find a connection with people, which I think is well intentioned. But just to say, I know
Yes.
what you mean, actually, we could be so far away from knowing what they mean. We've just leapt in by putting our knowledge and information into the gap rather than hearing what their knowledge and information is.
Yeah. If it is said after genuinely gaining an insight into how the other person feels, then it can be such a lovely way of connecting and it can mean a great deal to people. But
Mm.
all too often, I know how you feel is actually prelude to just going on to talk about your own feelings. Or if you hear somebody, if somebody says to you, I know how you feel, don't they usually go on to then tell you how they feel and talk about their own feelings and
Yeah.
experiences?
When this happened to me,
Yeah.
blah, 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 blah. Yeah.
And I mean, I know, having noticed it in other people, I started sort of looking at my own behavior, and I know I do it too. I make a really conscious effort not to now. But so I'm not being judgmental or slagging anyone off here. It's quite a natural thing to do, but it can leave the other person feeling quite isolated and misunderstood if you haven't got it right.
Yeah. Agree.
And so how about when we use I know about ourselves? You might think you can't go too far wrong there,
I don't
but
know. I think you're going to tell
but
us that we can.
when we say I know my limits, it starts as a means perhaps of protecting our energy and our peace. But it can end up keeping us playing small because if we keep telling ourselves that we know our limits and we are not looking at how those limits might change or shift, or how we might be able to move through them if that's what, is feels right for us, then we can end up keeping ourselves small and staying stuck because we keep saying, I know my limits. So I know I'm too tired to do anything else. I know I don't have the energy for that. I
Yeah.
know I'm not clever enough to do this, that, or the other. But when you actually, if you open up your mind to different possibilities, then maybe you can change your limits. Maybe your limits aren't are no longer where you once knew them to be,
Yeah.
or there is
I think
scope for
that's so true. It's a little bit of it to me, it sounds a bit like a sort of safety justification, like, oh, I know that's my limit, so I won't dare push it any further. But actually, there may not be truth in that
yeah.
self-proclaimed limit anymore.
And if you've actually sort of spent a little time and energy considering that, and that's your conclusion that right now that is your limit, and you know it, then good for you. That's a strong position to be in and to understand about yourself. But if that point in time defines your knowledge, then it will end up becoming limiting. Similarly, with, I know what helps me. Well, yes, at any given point in time, a certain way of doing things, a certain thing you do, a certain kind of behavior from other people may well be what helps you, but that doesn't mean it always will be or that it applies in every context, or
Mhm.
that there aren't other things that can help. I know what I'm like. Yeah, it starts as insightful self-awareness that helps you better manage your patterns of thinking and behaving. But it can become a denial of your capacity to continue doing that. The learning you started with then becomes sort of carved in stone and you don't progress any further. I know what I want. Great. At the point in time that you discover that. But 6 months, a year, 10 years down the line, is it still what you want? Really? You can confine yourself to a path that is not right for you if you don't take a look and say, do I know what I want?
Yeah. Or even just put now or still or something like that in there just to give it that check of, is it still relevant, appropriate, fitting for where I am now?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in short, when we resort to I know, it's often about having sort of shut down our curiosity and our openness to things being different.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's sort of like, it's a very sort of finite and definitive kind of statement. I know, isn't it? And actually, it's doesn't sound hypocritical. I think it's great if you can be decisive because we spend a lot of time trying to help people make decisions and act on them and come out of these cycles of doubt and indecision that we find ourselves in. But all we're saying is, do check in on the I know. Is it definitely still the case for where you are now? That's all we're saying.
Yeah. Yeah, because when you treat knowing as something that you have completed, then you're turning knowledge into something, as you said, static and finite, rather than the ongoing infinite process of discovery and rediscovery that it
Mm.
actually is. But it's not always easy to do that, is it? Because we live in a society that still values experts. I know they had a bit of a hard time. It was sort of around the lockdown era, wasn't it? Experts got a bit of a thrashing, but we
Yes.
still do value experts and expertise, and have come to instinctively regard I don't know as somehow weak.
Yeah.
You know, if
Yeah,
if
you're
a
absolutely right.
politician
I don't.
get
Yeah, we don't. For people who are in charge, we don't want to hear the words "I don't know" because we're looking for reassurance. I think
I don't.
for ourselves, we don't have to translate it that harshly, do we? We don't have to. We can be. Can we be okay with not knowing sometimes?
Oh,
I think we. I'm sure we've probably mentioned this in previous episodes about
mhm.
there is an element of we don't always know, but shall we just enjoy for a moment finding out, or just accept that we are in the process of finding out, and that's okay, and better to arrive somewhere that feels right than just think, well, I thought I knew, but this actually doesn't feel right anymore. And we've gone down a whole path that we didn't actually want to be going down.
Yeah, I love that. It's being open to not knowing might help you to know.
Yeah. So,
Yeah,
we can end up plugging a gap with something that's perhaps short-sighted, perhaps a bit limiting, or just actually wrong because we're applying things that we thought we did know and they're no longer the case.
yeah, because I know is very often about going back to the past, isn't it? It's about things we
Mm.
have discovered, things we did know, things that did work or didn't work for us at any particular point, rather than about, okay, what is true now for me?
Yeah.
And I
So
recognize that it may not be true tomorrow.
exactly. So how do we not fall into sort of an I know trap and shutting off new information?
Oh, good question. We do like a good question, don't we? Um, when you feel an I know coming on, or you spot it sort of finding its way out, um, just experiment with replacing it in your head with something like "I'm curious about," or "I'd like to know more about," or even I liked your suggestion of "Do I know?"
Mm.
and see how that changes your mindset on the situation, the subject. See what comes up for you, because sometimes it keeps coming back, doesn't it, to that idea of conscious awareness.
Yeah.
Like once you question it and become open to it, you allow yourself to see more, to know more, perhaps. And when it comes to I know how you feel, I know what you mean when you're talking to someone perhaps about something emotional or difficult. Try saying, if you're thinking, God, that sounds, I don't know, that sounds really scary for you. You can maybe try saying something like, "Oh, I've just said it, haven't I?" Okay. I did say before this episode, Catherine, that I didn't promise you coherence, and I'm delivering
It's
on
all
that.
right. I'll let you off.
Thank you. So when you rather than saying it's really scary, isn't it? I know how you feel. You could say that sounds scary for you because that gives somebody the opportunity to say, well, no, it was more
Yeah. Yeah.
frustrating actually than scary. And you're thinking, oh, well, that wasn't my experience at all. But now you know, and you're you're having a proper conversation with both of you talking about what you felt like rather than making assumptions about what the other person feels like. And that will lead to a greater connection, even if the experiences weren't the same. So I think those are just a couple of tips, but being open to it, being willing to say, I don't know, but I'd like to know,
Yeah.
or I know this now, but maybe it won't be true tomorrow. It just keeps up in that sense of curiosity and a willingness to keep evolving.
Yeah. Or just saying something as simple as maybe there is more to know. What that
Mhm.
might be.
isn't there
rather than
always?
just starting with the I know. Yeah, love that. So
So,
some quotes. I'm going to let you say the one that I've tried to read many times. I don't understand it. So you try and explain that one. I'm just going to go for a really simple one, which I think is hilarious.
I
People who think they know everything are a great annoyance to those of us who do.
love that one.
We love it. Bit tongue in cheek, obviously. I assume so, actually. Here's me jumping to, and I know what he means. It's
Yeah,
Isaac Asimov, apparently. I'm sure that was meant as a bit of a joke.
I hope so. It's brilliant, isn't it? I mean, I started by actually combining two quotes because Francis Bacon said knowledge is power, and power corrupts was apparently said by Lord Acton. So
Mm.
when we get too stuck in the belief of what we know, it becomes corrupting.
Well, there we go.
That was I just like the kind of the way those two work together. Yeah, knowledge is power sounds quite positive and bigs up knowledge, but power corrupts if you're not careful
Yes, yeah.
about reviewing what you know and how you know it and whether it's true and being open to new knowledge, you risk becoming corrupted by it. And there was a wonderful quote from Donald Rumsfeld a few years ago, which I think he got a little bit belittled for, but I think is genius actually. He said, "There are known knowns. These are things we know that we know. There are known unknowns. That is to say, there are things that we know we don't know. But there are also unknown unknowns. There are things we don't know."
I know it does make sense. I'll be really honest, when I was reading it, I was thinking about there's an episode of Friends where I don't know if you ever watched Friends back in the day, when I think it might be Monica and Chandler's relationship, and some of them have discovered it and the others haven't. And they go into this, oh, they don't know that we know that they know that we don't know that they know. And it just goes round and round in circles like that. So it's done very well, actually. It's very funny. But that's what popped into my head. And then I thought, what's the one that's missing between we got known knowns, known unknowns, unknown unknowns. Is there something missing? Is it unknown knowns?
And
But I don't
I
even
think
know
it
what
is
that is. So
an unknown. Can you have
that
an
we don't know
unknown
that we
known?
do know. I don't get it. Yeah.
Maybe we're talking about a kind of visceral understanding of ourselves that we aren't open to. Maybe it could be that an unknown known. That's all I've got.
Yeah. No, no, sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. And not that I had any answer for it whatsoever, but I thought, why was that one missing? And is it an obvious reason that I haven't landed on as to that one wasn't there?
A good one there, isn't it? So, shall we do a question?
Yes.
So, probably not a very surprising question, but hopefully an insightful one for you. What do you know about yourself that might be stopping you from knowing yourself better? And something that came up for me on this was I keep telling myself that I know the best way to relax. And I think this has become particularly true since I've become more aware of the whole introversion thing and the way that uses energy and how to deal with that. So I've got into the habit of seeing certain set ways of relaxing, of regaining my energy, and kind of fell into the trap of refusing to consider anything else. And I've kind of accidentally discovered, really, that sometimes getting things done rather than taking my usual slob option of relaxing helps me relax more because rather than ignoring all the to-dos and saying, no, no, I need quiet time, I need to take to the sofa and talk to no one and just put the headphones on and listen to a book and do some crochet and shut the world out. That's how I relax. When I actually knuckled down and got some of the things done on the list, I felt more relaxed than I did from doing the thing that I knew relaxed me.
Yeah. I guess that shows it's maybe situation dependent.
Mm.
There's always going to be a bit of context in it. It's probably is the case that you do find those original activities relaxing, but perhaps not if your brain is sort of swimming thinking of other things and are trying to force that, oh, this is what will work for me.
Yeah.
maybe, like you said, maybe it's not always going to in every situation, in every context.
Yeah. Being open to the idea that there are other things that will help me relax
Yeah,
has made a
yeah.
difference. Don't, I'm still seriously going to do plenty of the slobby option of relaxing. It does work for me a lot of the time, definitely. But I have now discovered that not always, which is a bit sad, but I'm getting used to it.
Hmm. Well, I decided to be very, very literal with this, and I thought, well, this is what do I think I really do know about
Mm.
myself? I mean, there's many things, but I thought it does become very reinforcing, doesn't it? If you tell yourself a certain thing about yourself, it does become your reality. So
Yeah.
this is my reality. I am scared of spiders. Now that is a true statement,
Hmm.
but I think if I reinforce that opinion, I'm in danger of becoming more scared of them than perhaps is
Oh.
necessary. I've associated myself as a person scared of spiders for so long, and this actually comes back to both myself and my sister. We're both scared of spiders
Mm.
because we remember our mum being very, very scared of spiders when we were children. And I wonder if I have. So the fear I experience, it is genuine. I see if it's a big one and it's moving, I have to get away as far as humanly possible.
Yeah.
But have I shut the door on the possibility that I could actually get better? I'm not sure I'd ever
Uh,
conquer it, but could I do? And the reason it popped into my head is I actually saw it was a little cartoon meme thing the other day, and it was showing a human foot about to step on a spider, and the spider had a little tear, and it said, "I didn't mean to scare you, but I didn't realize it would cost me my life." And I thought, oh, the thing
oh.
is, I don't want it dead. I just don't want it anywhere near me. It can just, please just live outside, a really, really, really long way away. So, but I just thought, you know what, I would like to get to a stage where I don't have that sort of reaction, and I think I need to open myself to the idea that it's possible that I maybe can manage to not do that if I don't keep telling myself that I know I am a person scared of spiders. I hope that's kind of making sense. And it'd be
Yes.
interesting because certainly if we tried this on my mum, for example, because her fear is quite heightened. So I think if there was any way of negating that, it would show there is some real power in this idea of reinforcement on messaging. So I'm going to try it. I'm not going to say I'm going to go and hunt them out and try and test myself on my my scared reactions,
Yes, maybe not. Maybe not.
but I shall
I
see how I
mean,
respond next time.
yes. I mean, the idea of that cartoon affected you, the meme, whatever it was, is interesting. That and what's the
I
word?
felt sorry for it.
Anthropomorphization of
Yes, I know. You make anything
yeah,
you give things eyes and personality of any
being
kind, and it
yeah.
immediately makes me more likely to wish it well. So yeah, I just thought I know they did. That's the thing. I do know they don't mean me any harm. I know it's not seeking me out, but they just kind of rattle me.
Yeah.
But like I said, I think it's a message I've told myself so many times now that it's become self-fulfilling. And it might be interesting to try. What if I tried? I'm going to try it actually, Kirsty.
Mm,
What have I got to lose? I might try
yeah.
myself that I'm not, that I don't necessarily, I don't have to love them because I don't think that's going to happen, but that I'm not necessarily someone, I just need to manage it a bit differently. And I would love to see if I could move the dial the other way. I don't, whether I'd be able to get them out on my own, I'm not sure. But the good news is, at least I've managed to hopefully curtail it to the extent my daughter is not scared of them because I
Oh, that's
try not to
brilliant.
freak
Yeah.
out. I don't freak out in front of her. I'll just sort of go, I try not, whereas my mum would do a proper full blown scream
Mm.
her head off type.
So you know you're a person who can control the fear. You know that you can be calm around them.
No, not really. It takes a
You've
huge
been you've
amount of
been
willpower.
doing it.
Yeah, no, well, it varies. It varies. I
Mhm.
did actually have an encounter not that long ago. It was in my bedroom and I saw it and I was on my own and I thought, oh, damn it. And it was too late for no one else to, because my daughter would remove them. And I thought, do I go and sleep in another room? And I was like, no, I'm not going to. But obviously in the morning it had moved and I was like, where have you gone? Because that kind of rattled me, not knowing
Mm.
where it was. And of course, I was then making the bed. And as I put a cushion back on the bed, it ran over the cushion right Didn't run over my hand, thank goodness, but it did run my, and that I did let out a bit of a squeak slash squeal at that point, and my daughter came to my rescue. But it wasn't as
I
dramatic a
would have
reaction as
done.
it might have been. It was quite big. It was quite a big one.
I mean, I don't consider myself to be scared of spiders, but I don't like things scuttling or flapping around me too close. And to have something unexpected suddenly emerge from your bed, I
Mm.
think is
Oh
enough
no,
to
look,
elicit
yeah.
a
No,
squeak from
luckily I
most
don't
people.
think it had shared my pillow, thank goodness. No, it was a cushion that had been on the floor that I then put back on the bed. So
Even
clearly
so, as you're doing that,
it had come round. I was like, why did you come nearer to me? You really didn't have to. And then obviously, as I moved the cushion, it kind of probably panicked. It probably panicked too. I appreciate that, but and I know I'm bigger and all those things, but I didn't like it. Anyway, we're turning this into an episode on spider phobia, whereas really we are talking about I know. So let's repeat the question since I've gone well and truly off on a tangent, which was what do you know about yourself that might be stopping you from knowing yourself better?
And on that note, thank you for listening, and we look forward to you joining us for the next episode of Mission Imperfect. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Mission Imperfect.
Please visit the show notes for details on how to contact us and for any resources we may have on the topic discussed.
Until next time, keep being imperfectly you. No one does it better.